I don't want to talk too much about this topic because it's boring, it's tedious. I am not the same person I was, 5, 6 years ago. So the sentiment is not the same. I am now safe and sound. I have home, I have children, everything is okay. But here and there, I'm reminded of the things I went through, and I feel I should share some of these stories because only now people are ready to speak up about systematic abuse that is happening to pretty much all of us. I was homeless for a little bit when I came to Canada. I lost my home, my restaurant, my family, my life, my dignity. I tried to unlive myself twice, and I spoke to various levels of the government, and I received apology from all of them. But while going through this process, the way the system is set up in such way that, for example, my ex-wife and myself had some issues, and I tried to work through them. I tried to get help. I reached out to the police. I reached out to social services. And instead of getting help for my ex-wife, I ended up being labeled as the problematic because I kept saying about the problems that we were all facing. And the police showed up and told me, "You're going to have to leave your home, your restaurant." Their exact words were, "Take your toothbrush and leave." I was like, "Where do I go?" They don't care. So I ended up on the street, on the street, kicked out from my home, from my restaurant, and spent a whole winter basically, couch surfing from one friend to another until I was finally able to buy myself a van. And I spent that whole fall and winter living in van while still working and paying all the utilities from my home and from my restaurant, because even though I was legally not allowed to go back to my home and to my restaurant, I was still obliged to take care of it you know the system, the law, and the society as whole failed me completely. But not just me, it failed my children, it failed my wife, it failed everyone. And I'm a living proof that there's something wrong with our system. There's so many details to talk about. Again, I went through that ordeal for about, now it's like 6 years and counting. I personally lost almost $250,000 because, I lived in South Korea for such a long time, and I saved enough money to purchase a house and a restaurant and put in a lot of work to increase the value of that property. And then, boom, it was all gone. It was all gone. When I became homeless, I was not allowed to go back home. And while the investigations were on the go and they were figuring out whether I was indeed the Hannibal Lecter and I was indeed, this guy who was beating up his wife and his kids and trying to send his kids, to see a doctor so they can get prescription pills so I can abuse them. I mean, I cannot even begin to explain to you the kind of things that I was accused of. Again, I later received an apology from every service, and everything turned out to be wrong. Simply, my wife broke down and she needed help, but instead of, again, helping her, I ended up being crucified, just like poor Jesus. I tried to get help. I went to these homeless shelters, and the worst places in the world that you can go to when you're down on your luck is a homeless shelter, because there is no way out of there. I spent one night. I remember there was one homeless shelter, and there I was told you can spend the night here. I was given a room that had no door handle, so you could not close the door, you could not lock yourself in. The room was filthy, filthy. I cannot explain to you how filthy that was. The people who were, caregivers of the home tried their best, but there was like holes in the walls. There was shit everywhere. They were horrible places. And I think probably the first time I wanted to unlive myself was when I was in that homeless shelter. Luckily, it was assigned to me only for one night. And you know what? It comes with breakfast. It's kind of like a bed and breakfast kind of deal. But the food that's given to you is a cold piece of ham and some macaroni. And believe me, I was extremely grateful for having a place to sleep that night, regardless of how inhumane that place was. Throughout the night, there was a homeless person there who I met also later on the street, harassing this young Muslim man who was also there, and he kept calling him like Muhammad, 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 like in condescending way. He kept barging into his door asking for cigarettes, for alcohol, even though the poor man told him on several occasions, I don't drink, I don't smoke, leave me alone. It was, I mean, honestly, I cannot even explain it. And, eventually, if I get enough courage and patience to talk about all the details, I will. But the reality is that the system is completely broken. And so many of my friends who went through these similar situations ended up losing their lives or just leaving everything. At this point, what is it, 81.7% of single mother households, uh, meaning that all these parents simply left, all the fathers left, they were taken out. 1 in 5 children is under provision or social services. It's a serious issue. It really is. Poor mothers are completely broken. I mean, broken. They're left to fend to for themselves and for their kids. A lot of them turn to sex work as the only way that they can make money. And my goodness, it's a horrible system. It's a horrible system, and we are all one step away from it. The reason why I'm talking about this particular issue or this particular, in this particular video about it is because I just watched a video about one homeless shelter and here in town in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, and a woman talking about horror stories that came out of there. I honestly feel bad because, like I said, 5 years ago, I was going through it and I could not believe it. Out of my own shame, I was even afraid to speak about these things because I simply believed that no one would believe me because just horrible, absolutely horrible. And absolutely no help came to me. Just again, like, being in the war in Bosnia and hoping the world will come to save us. Same here. Everyone I reached out to was, couldn't help. There was a few friends who tried to help, but it was nothing. It was nothing. So we are in for a rude awakening collectively, especially here in the West. But slowly, everything will be okay by 2500. In the meantime, the family will go through some major changes and society as a whole. And the issue of homelessness will have to be addressed because it'll become a bigger issue collectively. My heart goes out to all of you going through these ordeals.